The sanctity of human life is under assault. Find out how and what you can do about it in this edition of Life Matters with Brian Johnston, Western Regional Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California ProLife Council. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Hello, folks, and welcome. I'm Brian Johnston. I'm your host of Life Matters Radio. Today is a very important program, but we're dealing with an issue right now in California. And through the month of May, you may hear this program repeated. Don't worry. Make sure you send information to your friends and family. The purpose of Life Matters is to equip you to understand the right to life and to be an effective advocate for the right to life of the vulnerable innocent. Today, we're going to talk about an extraordinary push by the radical abortion lobby to legalize abortion not only on demand in California, but to legalize post-birth abortion. That's right, infanticide. And we're specifically going to ask you to go to the California ProLife website, to click on legislation and stop the infanticide bill. Click on that. You'll be able to communicate directly with your state legislator. The way this is going, it looks like each and every state legislator, yours, and every legislator in the state will be asked to approve of infanticide of children, in some cases as late as 18 to 20 days old. So we're looking at the intentional removing of all legal protection of a child in abortion and after an abortion if the child is born alive. So you're going to hear in a moment a discussion with myself and Sheila Green. She's the Vice President of California ProLife. She's filed several legal measures in the last few years exposing the fact that the existing law protecting children after an abortion, that existing law is ignored by Governor Newsom, his administration, and the state of California. They should be protecting these children. They dismissed that law. But now they simply want to remove that law. It's a very bold move on their part. When you, your friends and neighbors understand this, you need to take action. You need to let them know that you're watching. So please listen carefully in this program. We go into the history and the details. We want you equipped. But most importantly, we want you to take action. We want you to act on this. And you do that by going to CaliforniaProLife.org. Click on Stop Infanticide Bill. Click on that, and this will connect you to your state legislator. This is going to go to the state assembly. Every one of you has an assembly representative. But then it must cross the aisle and go to the state senate. Every one of you has a state senator. Communicate with them directly. Let them know you're watching. Then it's going to go to the governor. You're going to have a very limited time to communicate with the governor. He's already indicated he supports this. This governor supports unlimited abortion and post-birth abortion. That's how far we have come. I wish I was making this up. So please listen to this program. We're designing this to equip you to take action with understanding. There's lots to be done this May, and we want to help and equip you for this very real battle at hand. So go to CaliforniaProLife.org. Stop Infanticide. Click on that so that you can take action. We're going to go into all of that when we come back on Life Matters.
You're listening to Life Matters.
You know, Life Matters is now heard on dozens of stations. If you'd like to help us with airtime, but also let us know where you're listening, text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 916-347-5644. It's very easy. It'll guide you through that. But you can help Life Matters stay on the air where you are. Text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. Tell us where you're listening. It's very important that we be wise with the resources we've been given. Text the word GIVE to 916 347 5644. You're a real lifesaver. Thanks for standing for life. Life Matters couldn't exist without your help. That's text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on what it actually is. You see, it's a very specific thing. It's a legal right which America's founders expressly put in as a foundation for America's freedoms. A very specific legal right which has been given to you. It's yours. It's given to you by your creator, is what the founders asserted. But that every just government must work to ensure these rights. Governments are instituted among men, is what America's founders said. So the right to life is pretty important. And most of us got involved in being concerned when it was expressly removed from the American legal system on January 22nd, 1973, through the infamous Roe and Doe decisions, twin decisions, which removed the legal right for a child in the womb to be alive and protected under the law. Every state, every single state in the nation protected that child. Some did it a little differently, but literally every one of them. So January 22nd, 1973, what we would call the modern right to life movement was born. But this is a principle that has been in the aspiration of mankind, that a just government will protect the lives of the governed. And where that is abused, it needs to be addressed. America did that on the issue of slavery. And literally, it wasn't the Civil War. It was after the Civil War, the laws needed to change. And Lincoln himself never wanted a war. He wanted the laws to reflect what a just law should reflect. So he ensured, an amazing man, he ensured that the 13th Amendment was passed, and then the 14th and 15th. But these are very important principles that if we're going to have a just government, we have to understand and pursue. So the right to life, very, very precious. Today, we're going to talk about an incredible violation that the state of California wants to pursue. They want to legalize openly infanticide. And we're going to talk about a certain bill that's moving through the legislature, AB 2223. Joining me is Sheila Green. Sheila is the vice president of the California ProLife Council, and she's going to talk about the legal implications. She is an attorney. She has filed several briefs. We'll talk about some of them, but we're going to talk about this bill and why you need to be aware of what's happening right now and what you can do about it. So Sheila, welcome to Life Matters.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me.
We gave a preface, and those who listen to Life Matters know that we filed, and you did the actual filing of a California Freedom of Information Act request regarding existing law. What's the existing law in California on infanticide?
Sure. Health and Safety Code, Section 123435, states very simply, and I'll read it because it's one sentence, the rights to medical treatment of an infant prematurely born alive in the course of an abortion shall be the same as the rights of an infant of similar medical status prematurely born spontaneously. And what this section basically does is it establishes equal protection for a child born as the result of an abortion. So the idea is the fact that the child, the mother may have wanted to abort the child. Once that child is a constitutional person and is entitled to equal protection, the same as a child born spontaneously. So that's the current law in California.
That's right. And those of you who have followed Life Matters or have gone to a National Life Convention, there are quite a few individuals that have survived when they were thrown in the trash, thrown in a bucket, and they lived because someone saved them. So these children grow up to be normal human beings. These are human beings. So infanticide is a real thing. It does happen. And the pro-choice movement basically says, look, we wanted the kid dead. The fact that the child's now alive and no longer in the womb, well, that's irrelevant. We want this kid dead. Our state has a law, and that bill was passed in 1995, I believe, Sheila.
Yeah, it became effective in 1996, January 1, 96.
And that was passed. I was here then. That was during the time that these issues were up. Many of you, if you're old enough, you'll remember the baby doe regulations that had been promulgated under the Reagan administration. And that's when children born with a disability, this was happening. A child is born with a disability, and what they would do is put the kid in the closet. And so the Reagan administration said, wait a second, this is wrong, and issued federal guidelines. The baby doe regs, feel free to go back. And no, that child needs protection. And many of you know folks that have disabilities. I know quite a few people with Downs and other conditions, and they're amazing people. They just don't think like you and I do, and often don't communicate, but often they're incredibly intuitive and have great insight. My brother-in-law he now has passed away. He was disabled. And my brother-in-law, Kevin, he couldn't speak, but his eyes told you he understood a lot. And those of you who have any communications with folks with disabilities, the clearest thing is you don't kill these people. And yet that's what our culture had been doing. Starting in the Reagan administration, they rightly passed laws. And this law was a California law passed in 95 and acted in 96, exactly for this purpose. The Born Alive Infant Protection Act was then federalized later. But now that it's been revealed, tell me what your inquiry to the State Department of Health Services revealed, Sheila.
Sure. So in 2020, we did some Public Records Act requests to the Department of Healthcare Services, which owns Medi-Cal funding of abortion. We also did a request to the Department of Social Services, which oversees child protection, and we asked specifically what records they had of infants being born alive after an abortion. And both agencies said nothing. This is very significant because California is number one in the country for the number of abortions performed annually. And California, through Medi-Cal, funds abortion throughout 9 months of pregnancy for no medical reason at all. You don't need a medical reason to get the government to pay for your abortion in California throughout pregnancy. So it defies statistical probabilities to say no children are born alive. That's just simply impossible. And we know from the story of Kermit Gosnell back east, you may remember a few years ago, he was convicted of snipping the spinal cords of 3 children born alive in his clinic. He was a late-term abortionist. He was convicted of killing them after birth. And his clinic employee, one of his clinic employees, testified at trial that children were born alive on a regular basis. This is one individual doing late-term abortions on a regular basis. Children were born alive. In California, not a single one. That's just impossible.
And the state admits they don't keep these records. They don't follow through.
They don't.
The response that Sheila received, and again, this was a legal inquiry. They had to give some kind of response. Both Department of Health Services, and what was the other department?
Department of Social Services, which oversees child protection. And each agency was telling me, oh, we don't have it, call the other one, talk to the other one. So, yeah.
They don't follow the existing law, and yet it is explicit law in California, and they simply do not enforce it. So this is a very embarrassing thing, and many people know because we've been talking about that. It's the state Democrat Party that is applying this. Now, they're doing what they're doing now with other laws. Some people have asked, how is that possible? And what happens is that if you have authority in our form of government, what's known as prosecutorial discretion is yours. And we're seeing that right now, for example, in San Francisco, where a prosecutor knows people are being arrested for smash and grab thefts. And the individuals are arrested and the prosecutor says, let them go. I'm not going to prosecute. And people say, why not? It says, well, I see it as minor. It's unimportant. And so lawlessness has been approved on other grounds, on other laws. And this is becoming a pattern. But we're talking about killing vulnerable human beings, vulnerable babies, that actually there are people who want to adopt those same babies. There are people who will adopt children with any disability if they know that child's available. But the answer has been kill the kid. So When we come back, we're going to talk about what that means right now, why they decided the embarrassment was enough, that rather than be told that they're not enforcing the law, their answer is, well, we're going to remove that law. We're going to legalize infanticide, again, not just through late-term abortion, but AB 2223 authorizes late-term abortion and post-birth abortion, what they call perinatal killing. And when we come back, we'll talk about that bill and what you can do now to alert your friends and families and to let your legislators know you will not put up with this. We'll be right back after this.
Life Matters continues after this.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California ProLife Council. Would you help us during our pledge drive? It's easy. You can just pledge by text. Using your cell phone, text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. That's 916-347-5644. This is a text-only line, not a voice line. Once you enter the word GIVE, you'll be able to follow the prompts to pledge, and you can also find out a lot about California ProLife. So please, don't do this while driving. Please send a text GIVE, that's GIVE, to 916-347-5644. We'll do the rest. Our opponents get vast sums from the government. We can only look to you and folks like you who take a stand for life. Thanks for your help. That's 916-347-5644. Text the word GIVE. Thanks, you're a lifesaver.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program where we actually go into the details of what the right to life is. More importantly, what you can do about it. And right now we're talking about the state of California openly authorizing and legalizing infanticide. That is, killing an infant just because you want to get rid of the kid. There need not be anything physically wrong with the child. Again, you hear about these hard cases. If you really look at Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, it explicitly says that no, it's up to the abortionist, literally the killer, to decide if this abortion should happen. There need not be anything physically wrong with the child. It can be generic health, sociological health. And he admits in Doe v. Bolton, those are just examples. Anything of this type, the killing abortionist may kill that late-term child. They are to suffer no consequences. There's to be no prosecution of the abortionist. Now we see in California, it's explicitly being said about infanticide. So let's talk about AB 2223, the language of AB 2223. As we said, this is being introduced because we have a law right now against infanticide. But what does AB 2223 now say, Sheila?
So AB 2223, the stated intention of it is to prevent women from being subject to civil or criminal liability for a broad range of what they refer to as pregnancy outcomes. So it's not even just abortion anymore. It's about a whole list of pregnancy outcomes, miscarriage, stillbirth, etc. Final item in the list is perinatal death. So perinatal death, depending on the source, would be defined as occurring up to 7 days after birth or even 28 days or a month after birth. The CDC defines it as up to 7. California, the perinatal period is defined as up to 1 month. So we're talking about an infant potentially up to 1 month of age. And significantly, this legislation does not define the time period. It does not. So the only limitation that they were sort of shamed into adding is they say, okay, perinatal death due to a pregnancy-related cause. And of course, that doesn't really solve the problem because pregnancy-related cause is also not defined.
Pregnancy-related means there's a baby.
True. Or something that arose during pregnancy. And that could include the abortion. That could include a disability. So if the baby, if the mother wants an abortion and the abortion, quote unquote, fails, and the baby is born alive, and they leave the baby on the table, and the baby dies from injury sustained as a result of that abortion, which is a pregnancy-related event, then that would be covered, that there would be no prosecutions either of the mother or of the person, in other words, the abortionist, that left that child on the table to die. So this is a question of, it's not the intent, that is the issue. They keep saying, that the author keeps saying that the intent of the bill is to, certain things that people they think would agree with. But the wording is the problem. The wording itself allows for the abortionist to leave that baby on the table and allow that baby to die. And the same would be true if the child had a disability.
It prohibits any investigation. That's what it does. And then let's get to this. This is intellectual dishonesty. Let me just tell you, my wife had a miscarriage. We know about losing a child. We know families that have suffered stillbirth. We know that that was not their intent. And yet the authors, literally, they did this in committee. Oh, this is their intent. There's people being prosecuted for miscarriage and still. No, they're not. These people will lie to you. Think about it. If you're willing to kill another human being, but you want to make it look noble, what's a lie? If your conscience isn't bothered by killing this baby, this vulnerable baby, is your conscience going to be bothered by lying? They are what's called lying. It is intellectually dishonest. And we heard, Sheila and I were watching the hearing. You can watch a lot of this stuff going on, but we already knew it because what they're saying is that, oh no, this is about miscarriage. No, it's not. No one, we don't want anyone prosecuted for miscarriage. If they intentionally, if somebody, and this has happened, if somebody takes a baseball bat to that pregnant mother, that is assault with the intent to cause great bodily harm, but specifically to that baby. And then the miscarriage, that's been intentionally caused. They're saying there can be no investigation. They want to call that, well, that was just a miscarriage. Don't investigate. This is an intellectually dishonest exercise. And until, we say this many times in Life Matters, until you realize it's a battle of ideas, ideas are expressed in language. Until you take the time to look for clarity, you're going to lose because they're going to lie. And that's how we got in this situation in the first place. By the way, they're very good at putting everything in an emotional context. These poor women have had miscarriages. Why are you making them suffer again? Well, we want to know, did somebody cause that? Did someone intentionally cause that child's life to end? The law has always viewed it that way. Our existing law views it that way. So this is what's known as lying in polite society, but they want to pretend it's not. And this is it's all the abortion lobby. I want to remind folks, we're a nonpartisan organization. We still do have pro-life Democrats that are part of California ProLife and part of National Right to Life. But the Democrat Party no longer allows you to hold public office if you're a pro-life Democrat. They don't mind if you emotionally decide to vote because you like unions or you like other things the Democrat Party supports. They'll give you flannel-mouthed answers as to why you should stay a Democrat. But the Democrat Party is entirely beholden to unlimited abortion on demand. It is. And we see it clearest in the state of California. So what can people do about this right now, Sheila? What can they do right now?
Well, currently the bill just came out of the Health Committee, and it passed along party lines. 3 Republicans voted against, 11 Democrats, I believe, voted for, the 1 independent abstained. It will go to appropriations, and then it will go to the assembly floor. There's no reason to think that it will stall in appropriations. So this bill is going to go to the assembly floor. So we need people to contact their assembly member.
That's right. How can they do that? Right. California website, CaliforniaProLife.org. If they go there, what can they do?
Oh, under Stop Infanticide Legislation, they can click on that, and there'll be a form there that they can contact. They can click on the link, and they can contact their assembly member directly through the website.
Excellent. So I do want to remind folks that we have been at this for a while. I have to tell you, this bill is going to the governor because the entire building, I have lobbied in various parts of the world. I don't want to remind people how old I am. But the fact is that I've lobbied all over the world. I've lobbied the United Nations. The Democrat Party controls the state of California, just as the Communist Party controls Cuba, controls Peking. You could go to Peking and tell legislators there, members of their Politburo, oh, you should protect these babies. And they might even politely nod at you. There is no way that they will obey you because their ideology is that we must end your value system. That's happening right now. If you haven't seen that, your respect for individual human life, because you believe in America's principles, that's considered backwards. You have to respect groups. You have to respect the collective. And once the government determines which group is the superior group, they've decided what justice is. And the ideology of the Democrat Party now is a progressive ideology that the state is the decider of right and wrong. And it's the old-fashioned ways which must come to an end. So I want to remind you that the Democrat Party is entirely committed to unlimited abortion. The only way to change this ultimately will be to change your representatives. In our next program, we're going to talk about the practical ways you can start impacting that. But right now, you need to let your friends at church, your family, anyone of common sense know that this is happening and that we're watching. You need to let your legislators know we are watching. So go to CaliforniaProLife.org, click on Stop Infanticide Legislation. Click on that. You'll be able to immediately contact your state assembly member. Every member of the assembly is going to be voting on this. And then every member of the Senate, because both sides of the House, both houses are controlled by the most radical Democrat Party in America's history. And they've determined this is part of their priority. So contact them. I'll be honest with you. Ultimately, this will have to go to court. In the meantime, you must still use your voice. And when we come back next time, we're going to talk about how you can really change things. And that's through electing the good guys and not just giving up on elections. Too many people say, oh, well, you can't do anything. There's a lot of stuff to do, especially locally. But we're going to talk about that next time. Sheila, anything else?
I think we should not give up. We should not lose heart. It's important to stand up for what's right, even if your opponents won't listen. They need to be told.
That's right, and that we're watching. And they'll make stuff up. You've probably seen it if you're following the news. They're quite content to make up new realities and try to superimpose that on you. Your job's to say, well, I'm just looking at objective facts. Sorry. They have a belief system, and they say your beliefs are the problems, but your beliefs should be rooted in objective facts. The facts are on our side, and facts are terrible things to waste. So assert those facts, stand for those facts, stand for life, and go out there and make a difference. Thanks for listening.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California ProLife Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.